There is a bipartisan effort in the Senate to strengthen background checks in the United States if you are looking to purchase a firearm. Now, this is an effort, again, not just by Democrats, but by a Republican senator and a Democratic senator. And they're saying, look, we need to bolster the background check system in order to make sure that the communication is strong and to make sure that these backgrounds are as comprehensive as possible, so we're not allowing the wrong person to legally obtain a gun. Now, legislation would require the head of each federal agency to certify twice a year that they have submitted the proper records to the National Instant Criminal Background Check System, and would mandate that each agency develop an implementation plan for ensuring that all records are submitted. If the agency fails to certify that the records it has submitted to the NICS or fails to follow its implementation plan, political appointees in the agency will not be eligible to receive bonus pay. So there's the incentive to actually keep up with the records. And that's one of the bigger problems that people are experiencing. Some of these records are not being, first of all, included or taken. And so this law, if it were to pass, would do something about that.
And you're right, it's good news, right? It's bipartisan. You got John Cornyn, of all people, from Texas working here, Tim Scott from South Carolina, very conservative, Orrin Hatch, obviously, and Dean Heller, and working with some Democrats too. But I mean, the conversation we don't even fix the things these little things. And when people call for meaningful gun, and even Chris Murphy, who's so outspoken, really because he represents Newtown, and he's been terrific on it. And if it were up to him, we would probably have some meaningful changes. But the conversation about gun control takes place totally on the NRA and the rights side of the ledger. I mean, nobody's talking about restricting the manufacture of certain kinds of guns, or banning the sale of certain kinds of guns, or going out and ordering people within the next year to turn in those kinds of guns for some sort of, we don't, like, all things that might be reasonable and might actually make a significant difference. And we're not talking about banning everyone, keep taking everybody's gun away. But again, we don't let people have, although based on the show I just saw, some people do have bazookas, but we don't let people have tanks, right? We don't let people have Tomahawk missile launchers. That's gun control. We have gun control. We do control the sale and ownership of some guns. We just stop it at a point before, when we still allow them to have guns that can do military grade weapons that can still do tremendous damage to people.
Right.
So we don't have a conversation about just getting rid of those guns. Like within 10 years, we're not going to have these guns anymore. We're going to get them. We'll pay you for them. They're property. You have a right to some money for that. And we're going to take those guns from you. And now, because but we don't even, that conversation not happening, we're gonna get this, and then they'll pass this, right? Probably, because it's got by.
But they won't. Maybe they won't. But
even if they pass this, they'll shake hands, and we will have shored up something that needed shoring up. But it is a tiny, tiny, tiny little step toward getting to the kind of society where people can walk around and not substantively fear that they might be part of a mass shooting.
And I just want to quickly interject, and before you jump in, Brett, that bump stocks are still perfectly legal.
Right.
You can buy a bump stock right now, perfectly legal. Congress did absolutely nothing following the mass shooting in Las Vegas.
That went away. So even like the little, I mean, you could agree. I think we can all agree. That was a little thing to change.
Yeah.
And all the analysis is, well, all right, we can agree that this one thing, there's a spirit of a law saying that you can't have an automatic weapon. This has it functioning as an automatic weapon. The law's already on the book. Let's ban the thing that does it. But it is that process that happens not just on the other sides, in their terms and according to their structure, but it just happens behind the scenes. And no one sees where it goes on. It also happens in the dark and in secret. And once there's a light shine on it, something else happens. We look the other way and it's gone. And the sad logic seems that like this thing has to happen more often in order for us to be able to pay attention long enough to make sure that it goes through. Another aspect of this is a law that we are passing to ensure we follow the law.
Yeah, that's right. That's right.
And so if this doesn't work, then a few years later we'll rethink it. We might pass a law to make sure that we follow the law that ensures that we enforce the original law. So I don't think we need. Why do we need this aspect of it? I know we need to get together and vote, and hopefully it'll be really quick. But I get more and more disconcerted and sad when I see over time even these little things that are just
that's what I'm saying. This is a minor. This is close to nothing.
It's fulfilling the promises we've already made.
I have a little hopeful story.
No, it is. I'm glad.
No, but you guys are right. You guys are right ultimately. And you remember the good old days when we were like worried that they're probably gonna just ban bump stocks and then look at that as a win and then leave the gun control issue like that. I look back at that and I'm like, man, I wish that would have happened. At least they would have banned that, right? But they couldn't even do that.
But we didn't do anything after Vegas because
we're never going to do anything. Period.
No, because Vegas did not have the emotional impact of Newtown. I mean, 20 first graders got murdered in their class, and knew they were going to get murdered. They were terrorized first and then murdered. They saw their friends die and then they were murdered. First graders, they're 6-year-olds, and we didn't. So I mean, that's worse than Vegas if we're going to rank them, and we didn't do anything.
Man, I stayed in Mandalay after the event.
Oh, you did, really?
Yeah, I went back just because I got an offer because I play too much casino slots on my phone, and they were like, "Come stay for free," and so I went. And they have made the change that you have to show your key card before you go up the elevator.
No, well. Or if that feels
so you show them that you have a key card.
I thought they didn't already do that.
They did already do that, but then they didn't do it everywhere.
Right now, it's not just at night; it's all day.
They did announce that they're
annoying.
It's just so they can maybe register you as someone can see you go in and out. So if you go in and out a lot with a lot of bags, maybe that's one thing. And then there also was a story in the news about how if it's longer than 72 hours and you've had do not disturb on your door, they're just going to go in.
They're just going to go in. They're just going to. You got do not disturb on your door for 72 hours. They're going in. You're getting fresh towels, man. That's it.
Yep.
You are getting fresh towels.
I don't care if they're on the floor or not.
We are giving you 4 new towels and some hand towels.
But it's
and the medium towel, which is an underrated but misunderstood towel.
Okay, unacceptable. Like this is the thing. Okay, so you have bad actors doing terrible things. And so instead of passing legislation that would maybe put a stop to that, instead, everyone else is going to be inconvenienced, right? Everyone else.
Security.
It's the TSA approach to the problem.
Oh my God, that's it. Now we're going to be. By the way, I went to a school district board meeting that I was just interested in, and it was in this building where, as I drove through security, he stopped me. And he's like, you need to open your trunk. They had to search my trunk.
Yeah, I've had that.
That's insane.
Help us build independent media together. Come join us, tytnetwork.com/join.